Here's an idea about how to deal with a little bit of pre-meet anxiety, or anxiety in general, I suppose. Um, Most of our fears never come true, and that is especially true of our greatest fears. Our greatest fears are most likely the least likely to come through and actually happen. So, knowing that fact, that the things we fear the most about any situation or uh, something that we have to face up to, it's it's a good thing to do this. Ask yourself a question. Ask yourself how likely you think the thing that's causing you all this anxiety is to actually happen. And you could rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. For some of my more overthinking clients, I'll just say, um, don't rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. That'll take you too long. Just answer this question. Is it mostly likely, 50%, or unlikely? So under 50-50 or over. What are the chances of this horrible thing that is causing anxiety? Uh, what's the likelihood of it actually occurring? And almost all the time, the answer it's less likely to happen. Sometimes I assume it's 50-50 because you don't know. But very rarely is the thing that you are all wound up about and having all this anxiety and possibly even some fear about, is it ever going to happen? It's not even likely to happen. It's unlikely to happen. And so that's a fact that can that you start with. You start with clearing your head, the way you think about your anxiety. Now that doesn't necessarily change what you feel. And there's the rub. So I can mentally know something isn't going to happen most likely and still be afraid of it and still get all wound up about it. So how do we dissociate the facts of the matter so far away from our feelings about the matter? How do we get to that point? And I will submit that we create that. So if we were rational beings and we looked at facts and we we created we formed our viewpoint on the world based on the facts and what we perceive, then things that are not likely to happen will not stress us out. They won't give us anxiety, and we won't be afraid of them. But that's not what happens with anxiety. We can be afraid of stuff that's almost impossible to happen. And so I submit that we create that ourselves. That does not come from the outside world. The thing that you're afraid of happening and the thing that you're wound up again about comes from you, not from the actual possibility of the events in the world all conspiring against you to make that happen. They probably won't. They rarely do. The bad things that we worry about and that we're all upset about inside are of our own creation. Now when you accept that, yeah, you know what? I can see logically that this is probably not going to happen. So that's step one. Is it likely to happen? Is it 50-50 or is it unlikely to happen? Well, this is unlikely. Okay, so once you accept that, then you realize it's not the facts of the situation that you're perceiving accurately that are making you upset. It's all happening inside your head. You're creating it with your imagination and your willpower because it doesn't create itself. Because unlikely things don't don't impress themselves on you from the outside in to bother you all night long. That happens from the inside out. You're thinking about a rare occurrence that might happen, and you're all wound up about it. You have a lot of anxiety, you have a lot of fear, you have a lot of apprehension. and you perseverate on that one thing over and over, and you create it. Now, this doesn't help your feelings either, but it does show you who's in charge. It shows you that you have the autonomy. So first you start with the facts. If something's likely to happen, you have a good right to be all wound up about it. But if it's really rare and unlikely to happen, which are most of our fears and most of our anxieties, you don't really have a logical reason to be upset about that. And also, once you realize that if there's no outside facts or supporting data that say this is probably going to happen to me, where is that sense of dread coming from? It can't be coming from outside because the facts don't support that. So it didn't jump in there on its own. You created it and then you built it into the monster. So knowing that fact gives you autonomy. It gives you responsibility, but it also gives you the driver's seat. It gives you the wheel of the ship. You're the one that made it, and so you're the one that can also unmake it. So that's a fairly powerful idea. Again, but that's just an idea. It's not a feeling, is it? We have to find a way to start to align the feelings that we feel with the reality of the outside world. And the reality of the outside world is, hey, you shouldn't be worried about this because it's probably never going to happen. But our feelings tell us that we should worry about it 24/7. And those are not in register. They're out of sync. So we can see that. We can see the facts. We can understand that we're the ones that's responsible for distorting the facts. That's us doing that. And then we can take the responsibility of saying, well, if I'm the one that distorted it in the first place, because it's not really a fact, it's not really going to happen, but I feel like it is, I must be the one in charge of these feelings. And when you start to see that you're not at the mercy of outside things pouring in on you and making you feel that way, but you are at the mercy of the inside feelings and thoughts that are making you feel that way. But those are your own, and you're the one that has, you're in charge of your own thoughts. If you're thinking something over and over, you can stop thinking it. And you would say, well, no, Jam, it keeps popping back in. And I would say, well, that is true, but you got to keep popping it back out. And so here's the autonomy part. You think about something over and over again and continue to think about it. But remember, that's something you created. So you could say after a while that it pops in all on its own. And that may be true. So now you try not to think about it, right? But it sort of comes in automatically. So every time it pops in, you have to replace it with another thought. That's your job. That's your autonomy. You put the bad thoughts in, or the worrisome thoughts, or the anxiety-producing thoughts in. So you need to replace those thoughts with calming thoughts, pacifying thoughts, sedative thoughts, soothing thoughts. And this is what they call self-soothing. Now, this is all mind stuff still. When do we get to changing our feelings? Well, the thoughts can start to do that. Your thoughts can begin to change your feelings, because remember how you got in this situation. You're all worked up about these feelings because you thought that something that isn't going to happen might happen. And you convinced yourself by thinking about something that is a very rare occurrence that it's probably going to happen to you. That was your thought that made that. You're responsible for that. You made that happen. So thoughts can definitely change the way we feel. So there's a starting place to change your thoughts. And then the most powerful thing we can do, though, is to change our feelings. That's a more slippery, that's a greased pig. That's hard to grasp. But it's not impossible, because the easiest way to fight feelings is with other feelings, just like thoughts. So you know things that make you feel good. You can do activities that you know you enjoy. When does the anxiety come? When you are sitting or going to bed, or sitting by yourself with nothing to do and you're not engaged in something, or when you're doing something you really enjoy, like playing basketball or playing golf or working out or being with someone you love and care about, or maybe smoking a cigar or possibly doing a crossword puzzle. You know, things that make you feel good and better. And what you need to do is you need to create feelings to take the place of the feelings that you created with the bad thoughts. So use some thoughts and actions now. Do something, take action, and do something that you know from history and from your own experience makes you feel good and not bad and not stressed out. Now this seems oversimplified, I know, but it's absolutely bulletproof. It's a flawless concept. Now, if you can pull it off, it's going to take some discipline, because you have to discipline your thinking and you have to discipline your action. You have to discipline your thinking into thoughts that are positive, not negative, and that are away from the anxiety-producing thoughts. And you have to discipline your actions against sitting there and pondering all the horrible things that might happen to you. And get busy doing something that you know for a fact, makes you feel good. And those two things take a little bit of discipline. I don't know if they will solve the problem, but how could they possibly hurt? How could that possibly be a risky thing to try to do? So there's an idea about, people talk to me a lot about anxiety and worrying about the meet and how they're going to do, and they can't perform well. And there's lots of techniques, and this is one that I think is pretty solid. There's plenty of them, but this is one where you take action, you take autonomy, you look at the situation clearly with reality and with facts, and you try to make your feelings come in line with those facts. Because the problem is your feelings don't align with the facts. You're worried about something that probably won't happen. And that, the fact is it's probably not going to happen. So the feeling should be, hey, I don't have to worry about this. But that's not where you're at. So to change that, you look at the facts of how likely is it to happen. And hey, if it's likely to happen, then you have every right to be anxious about it. Fine. But if it's not, then you're out of sync with reality. You're out of sync with the real world. You're all worried inside about something that won't happen, that's not going to happen. You're all worried about an imagined outcome. And who imagined it? You. You did. And those thoughts turned into what? They turned into feelings. So if that can happen to make you feel bad and anxious, why can't your thoughts of good things and positive things and how unlikely this is to happen, why can't they change the way you feel some as well? I submit that they can, and that they do. But that may not be enough. So then, what is, I think, more powerful, after you've taken that autonomy that, hey, this is my problem, I made it up. I made it up not using facts. I made it up, and the facts don't fit it. So you take the autonomy to say, I'm going to do something that makes me feel better. I'm going to do things that I know make me feel good, in hope that they'll make me feel good now. And if you're really busy and engaged in doing something you love, what chance does anxiety or stress or, worrying about things that might happen that probably won't, how is that going to ever get into you? How is that going to break through that you being totally consumed and enjoying the thing that you know makes you happy or makes you feel good or satisfies you? So there's a quick, easy technique, 3 steps. You look at the facts, you take autonomy, you change your thoughts, and you do something. You take action. And I know they won't hurt. And I can't see how they wouldn't help some. It may not erase all your anxiety, but Again, it can't hurt, and it really might help. And if you get good enough at it, I think you can fix a lot of problems. So I think you should give that a try and test it out. And don't give up on it too soon. Test it a couple times. And I wish you well. And thank you for listening.